Welcome everyone to episode number. What are we on now?
Lucky 13.
It's 13.
Yeah.
Excellent.
13, yeah. Nice.
Yeah, we definitely need to get Craig a hat. He needs one.
Yeah.
Maybe in a yellow or.
It's bad
white.
luck to have hats indoors.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it bad to record episode 13?
Yeah. Look, the only other thing you can do is actually have an umbrella inside and maybe a ladder and a mirror.
Right.
Yeah.
We should have recorded it on Friday as well. The other Friday.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And we should have gone straight to 10, like Windows 10. You know, we should have skipped episode 9.
Yeah. Did I tell you the story of how Office skipped a version because they didn't want to call it version 13?
No?
Oh my God. So we're building Office 12, which is obviously internally it's version 12. And then there's a discussion about, okay, when that's finished, we move on to 13. Nobody wanted to call it version 13. So it was just skipped. I'm pretty sure, I haven't looked, but I'm pretty sure that's what went out the door. There's nothing called version 13.
Oh, they should have called it Office Pro
It's
Max.
wrong because it is version 13, like in reality, but you call it version 14, then
I think they
underneath.
skipped the actual version number. The version number.
I'm pretty sure it was Word 13 where you add like an image and then it breaks the whole layout. Oh no, that's all Word version. Sorry.
Oh, that's rough. That's rough.
So yeah, podcast topics today. There was a couple ideas I had: serverless versus like dedicated servers, and also I'm curious like how people consume their like news or tech news. So yeah, maybe start off with the news one. How do you? I use RSS, so yeah.
I just follow you on Twitter, Patrick.
Yeah.
That's actually my answer. I just follow Twitter and follow Patrick on Twitter. And whatever Pat says, that's all I read.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or more to the point, whatever Patrick disagrees with, it's worth checking out.
On a serious note, that's actually in a way what I do. So
Yeah.
I follow my friends and what they post on social media and on our own private chat tools and whatnot. And because they usually act as a bit of a filter, if they see something interesting, they'll post it. I usually read whatever they post, and it creates an absolute echo chamber. A complete bubble, but it's effective filtering. There's just so much random crap out there.
But it's a curated echo chamber, right?
Yeah.
So it's the echo chamber of people you worked with, you like, you understand what their motivations and drivers are, and then you go, all right, I'll check that out. I mean,
Yeah, and I sort of treat Twitter like that too. I'll turn Twitter into a complete echo chamber bubble of the people I actually want to hear from.
Meeting.
Well, Vincent's
Oh, sorry.
all good.
Mute yourself. There's a button
Yeah.
called mute.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say like actually I use Google News, but that in itself is also an echo chamber because now like Google just like picks up like whatever I usually browse or look up on YouTube, and then it creates this world where I just keep looking at the same thing like over and over. I don't like it, but I don't know. I'm just getting used to it because when I go on Google News, it immediately has stuff that I'm somewhat interested in. And, I'm stuck in this circle of just keep looking at the similar stuff over and over. I don't like it.
And it's the same no matter if you go read a news site or in any single location you look at, they're all little echo chambers. And they're all fairly politicized, and it's hard to get any objective news of anything.
Yeah.
there are some sources that are slightly out of the echo chamber. Like Hacker News is just basically everyone tech, right? So
Yeah.
it's a bit of a free for all for all the tech people. So it widens out the circle a bit. I actually attend that ThoughtWorks Tech Radar every 6 months, which does their little radar blips of what's coming in, what's coming out from, at least that's farming out from all of their consultants in all their different projects. And I often get things that I'd never come across on my day-to-day basis, so that's been a handy one for me too. If you can find those little conferences and things like that, it helps a lot.
What do you use, Nigel?
Yeah, same sort of things. Yeah. I mean, it's funny actually. Like Vincent was saying, I look at a lot of things on YouTube, and so I have a YouTube feed that's very curated towards like things I might be interested in. And so if anything's growing in the community, I tend to hear about it. Yeah.
Does anyone follow blogs or use RSS?
I used to. I stopped as soon as Google killed Google Reader, which was a sad day.
Yeah. Another Google death.
There's a few like news sites as well, which are often sort of the evolution of blogs. So like tech journalists who have their own sort of blogs and sort of become known as their own place. So I listen to read the Platformer one with Casey Newton.
Yeah, same.
The information is a good news one. Even if you can't afford their subscriptions, which are pretty high, the actual daily sort of digest is also good on general tech topics, but they're not really tech things. Like you're not going to get tools or stuff out of it. It's more business deals and stuff like that. But yeah, you got to curate multiple sources and have a good sort of routine to just filter it and just only go into the things that pique your interest, because you could spend all week just going through a day's worth of stuff that people want you to pay attention to.
The one good thing I found is with the rise of independent journalism, you can follow independent journalists. So you can choose an individual that you might like, and not the newspaper, but the actual person. And they publish on, generally on their own site and maybe on Twitter and other places. But you can just follow the individual, and that's I do that sometimes too.
Or is it like an email newsletter? Do you use those?
Yep. Yeah.
Because there was a podcast I was listening to the other day, which was this guy called John Gruber, who's sort of this Apple writer guy. And it's really interesting. He was saying one of the reasons why he thinks email newsletters have taken off so much is because in your email client, you just know you're not going to scroll down and get crappy ads pop in or a pop-up. It's actually the limitation of the technology that makes the experience better. Whereas you go to half the freaking commercial news sites, whatever, and it's just a shitty reading experience. So
yeah. Plus your BuzzFeedy headlines, just for the sake of it. Everything's in outrage mode, and you just go, forget that.
Yeah. Actually, I do that. The thing I love is that, but I also have images turned off in my email client, so I don't even see any images. It's just text.
So that's an interesting point. The better the technology becomes, the more we get susceptible to spam and advertising and all kinds of crap going at us.
My email spam rate is about 99%, I reckon.
Yeah.
Receiving or sending?
Yeah, I think pretty much if you want to actually get my attention or something, there's the alternative. There's Slack for work, there's Discord for social chats, and just direct messaging. No one sends email to actually do anything with it, do they? Surely not. I mean, my whole thing is just newsletters and subscriptions. And hey, I bought a T-shirt. You now got to sign up for our newsletter.
Yeah.
So this is getting interesting because as technology becomes better, let's say we eventually get to the point where everybody wears like those VR or AR glasses. Just imagine the overflow of spam that comes everywhere, because the technology allows you to have stuff everywhere, right? You just look into the world, and then you just can have a little ad in the corner of the room.
Yeah, it sounds horrible. Imagine walking by Starbucks, and then it's offer 10% 2 for 1, and you just you already have that obviously with posters and stuff today, but it just would get so much more aggressive. It's just
it's going to happen. One thing I'm looking forward to is when the AI bot that I have can just read the website for me and tell me what I want to know, because I don't want to actually read it. If I read it, I'll have to be exposed to spam and bullshit.
Well, what if the bot cannot, the advertising is so good that now the AI cannot tell between the spam and the actual?
Yeah, the ads find a way. Yeah.
Have you noticed that's happening now in a really clever way inside YouTube? So the best YouTubers now are weaving advertising into their material. It's become product placement inside their content videos.
It is their material.
but in a significant way. Like, you know how you'd see like the subtle Pepsi can in the movie? It's not that anymore. It's built into like the subject of what their content is, and it's really insidious.
They usually do like a little segue, like they talk about one topic and then they say like, by the way, this and that. So they like you noticing that they don't do that anymore, right? They just like included
Right.
it
It's built in now. It's weaved into the story, into the content.
By the way, this episode's brought to you by Apple. So if you've never heard of the iPhone, please check it out.
Yeah. I'd love to get some sponsors. That'd be great. We can talk about it. If there are any sponsors out there, please call us. Actually, definitely don't email us because we won't reply.
Well, considering changing ourselves name to Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Hey, the maker of this hat is sponsoring us right now. You know that's why.
Yeah. Whoever made this hat, please sponsor us.
Well, it's considering changing our name to Wikipedia, but Elon Musk didn't extend the offer, unfortunately. It was $1 billion to Wikipedia. You can't tell with him, so
I don't know if he's being serious or not.
I just don't think he
doesn't matter. The lawyers will make him serious.
He's not serious, but if that actually happened, I'm sure he would give the $1 billion like happily. And I'm pretty sure it's not going to happen.
He would not give it happily. What's wrong with you? Have you not watched him with Twitter?
You know,
know.
like, his point was interesting, though. His point was people write all sorts of lies about me on my page. I'm not happy about it.
He had a point about it. I thought he was just trolling.
But people write all sorts of lies about him on Twitter, like his own platform or X. Like, it's just.
It would have been better if they just wrote back deal. Right.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, I didn't mean it. I'll go get the lawyer. Oh, the lawyers I just sued because I paid too much for it because I had to do what I was told to do last time, what I said I was going to do.
So it's funny we're going on to Wikipedia. I got one piece of spam, just tying some things together this morning, literally this morning. And it was from a very serious company, not in random country, but out of America, US company. Their job is to create profile pages on Wikipedia for you. So you pay them some money and they'll create a page for you, right? And write your bio or whatever and stick it up there. And they were very, very serious. It looked very professional. It was obviously spam, but it wasn't a scam, right? It looked legit. I could not believe that there are companies now that do that.
Why wouldn't there be though? It makes sense.
How much, Armin?
I didn't ask. I didn't engage.
I'll do yours for you.
I don't think I'm important enough to have a page.
No, once you have a page, you become important. That's the difference now.
Yeah, well, it makes me wonder, like, are people paying for those pages now? Is that what's happening? I thought they got created once you got to a certain level and then there's enough of a, I guess, community or fan base or something that created it for you for free.
You're not supposed to create your own page, but yeah, it's open. Like people could do whatever, of course.
Yeah, like, so who made Elon Musk's page? Did he pay for it? I doubt it. There's no way he paid for it.
Oh, it would be thousands of people. Like it would be thousands of editors. But I like Wikipedia because it's completely open. Like anyone can edit it, but like it works. Like it's a modern miracle in today's age, I think. And the articles are like fairly like they come to some sort of like it's not just like totally biased. Like they sort of come to some sort of
consensus, right?
Yeah, it's really
people
interesting.
pulling from different directions. Usually it comes to, I mean, maybe for a while it's unpleasant and it says some stuff that's not right, but it tends to sway back and forth.
Well, it's a consensus, but it might show like, oh, this person's got this thing, they did this sort of wrong, but then this was good. Like it just shows like more of a complete picture. So yeah.
If we sat down to try and pitch that and design that and go, look, we just want open, it's going to be an actual factual database, high level accuracy, and we'll just let anyone edit it. You would not pass that as a design review these days, yet somehow it works. You know, it's great.
Exactly.
Yeah, interesting. So you want to talk about servers?
Yeah, it might take. It's probably a meaty topic here, but yeah, serverless versus servers. I'm curious what people's
Is even still a
experiences.
topic? It's 2023. Is anyone still using serverless for anything meaningful?
It's very popular.
Serverless is great.
All right, kick us off the bat, Craig.
Look, I actually think serverless is really good to get started with Lambdas. You can build really complicated stuff quite simply right, and get it running.
Yeah.
But I think there's a point where in your evolution, if you continue to exist, right, and your product does well and your traffic starts to increase, I mean, you're going to have problems with serverless, like your cold starts and other things like that. But you can build great evented systems and things like that. But as your traffic goes up, that cost-benefit analysis actually starts to go away from serverless, more towards sort of traditional things. And I'm just not saying like serverless.com, like as that sort of platform, like you got the CDK and those sorts of things where you can still spin up lambdas and a lot of that sort of stuff. But early on, I think it's fantastic. Later on, I think, if you're going to be a longer term concern, you generally look towards getting rid of it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'll add one other dimension, which is if you look at the bursty nature of your workload. So if you've got like a burst of data that you need done right now, and then you're going to wait for a few hours, and then you need some more work done, and you don't know the scale of that, then serverless is great. So
serverless is also great planning for no success, right? If you're not being used and not doing anything, you're sort of gone, your costs are down low, which is in startup phase kind of useful.
Yeah, so that works for a small business that's growing, because the workload is bursty in nature. You just don't know if you need any effort right now. Maybe you'll need it later. But even later on, once a business is mature, there are plenty of use cases that are of that nature. They're bursty, they're infrequent, and it's hard to predict the scale. So having serverless is helpful. But I'd say that generally the minority, the smaller use cases as a business gets larger, there are often workloads that are much more predictable and consistent. And for that, it's better to have your own server.
It's pretty popular though, like Vercel's serverless, that's very popular. Like it's obviously the main sponsor of Next.js, and that's very popular. Like that's all serverless. And
I think it became popular because Vercel did such a good job of creating a PaaS and creating a system where you could just run your service without much effort. I don't think it became popular because people liked serverless.
Yeah.
I think people do like it.
I think it became popular because it was free for most things that you do as well, right? So you go, we'll dip your toe. And then it was such a good platform to use, sort of like the early Heroku days when you were doing, Ruby on Rails stuff. It just got rid of all that complexity. You didn't have to worry about, do I need a server doing it? Just deploy it, and you've got an Next.js server. Well,
the concept of it, like the idea that when you have a server running, you have kind of constantly kind of worry about it because it's up. There's stuff happening. It's like alive a little bit. But serverless, it doesn't really leave, right? It's just like somewhere there, and then as soon as you need it, it's just gonna burst out and do something, and then after that, it's gonna be gone.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of value in the idea.
It's a better model for me, it's a little bit more stable than knowing that there's this thing that needs to leave. You need to have like all those states that are gonna be changing. Yeah,
see, I really love it for event-driven systems as well. So, like, if you did something like, I'm going to do a login, right, and then you've got, someone's registered on your site, you've got your new user, you can throw the event out onto EventBridge in AWS land, and have another function fire off in the background to just go, new user, I'll send them a welcome email, or new user, I'll check to see if they're fraudulent, and and just having these sort of distributed workflows go really well. So in my mind, that evolution sort of goes not exactly from serverless to a standalone server to run the whole thing, but sometimes serverless to run a whole server for the main API endpoint, but still use serverless for and Lambda functions for other things. And then you start going, well, do I need, what technology am I going to use to deploy this stuff and manage it and do those sort of things? And there's lots to choose from. It's a fun space.
Nigel, what do you think?
Yeah, what do you think, Nigel?
A couple of instances where I'm using serverless at work, and one of them is as you were saying, it's bursty, right? We literally have a new whole data set arrives, and we have to process it as fast as we can. So we just have all the work gets shoved onto a queue, and then lambdas or things spin up and consume them all, and it's happening like a week or every couple of weeks or something, right? So you just don't want servers sitting around doing nothing in the middle of the time. And that's
what I do as an employee. Go on.
You get someone to sit there and spin them up. Yeah, and the other one is like we've got this massive data set we have to process, and again, we're just trying to parallelize it and get it through as fast as possible. And when we had servers running it, the servers were running out of memory because I don't know, but by processing all these things individually, each instance has got its own memory that it's doing, so you don't have like them all trying to load the same data sets into memory at once and things.
And if it's got a queue, right, you don't really care about that cold start because it's just like, oh, it's just the delay doesn't really matter.
That's it. It's a lot of. I've been doing a lot of optimization stuff recently, and one of the things we were doing was like a tile server for a map, right? So that as you're moving around the map, the tiles are all loading, right? And that's basically, it's actually an API gateway basically on the front of an S3 bucket at the moment. So you could use other technologies for that, but the whole pipe of processing the data and doing the queries and putting the data into the S3 bucket is all serverless stuff. It's working really well for us. It's good.
I think the consensus I've heard and have come to is like for user-facing requests, so it's going to like render JSON that's used to power a single page app or mobile app, or like render HTML. Gosh, imagine like if it's doing that, it shouldn't be probably serverless because just the cold start time can affect the user experience. So you don't want that delay. And the cold start's not just the initial request because you can warm them up, but like as there's more, it might be like one instance that's warm, but then you've got like lots of requests coming in, so it needs to spin up another one. So then those users will get that delay. So it's not just the initial request.
Yeah,
but there's plenty of ways of doing it really well, right? Like as you said, first cell, it works great, right?
Does it? I don't know if it's
I don't know.
I don't know. That's why they're pushing the edge compute, because I think they've done some clever stuff to patch over the weaknesses of the cold start. One of the things,
but that's the hard part, right? Is that sort of cleverness. So these are all questions of scale. Like it's a tool to use in certain circumstances, and it's not applicable to everything, right? And it's the same with going, oh well, we all just go to the cloud and go. Well, DHH was putting out that whole thing of going, yeah, but if you don't actually bring it all in-house instead of off the cloud, you're doing a disservice to your own self on your bottom line. And, he's got a valid point. Again, not something you would blanket say everyone should just run your own server from your, from your study.
It's that context thing again. It all depends what you're optimizing for. So, and like we were saying the other day, if you're a startup and you're trying to get ideas out there and do experiments, you don't know how much load you're going to get. You want to do something that scales really quickly. It doesn't cost you anything when no one's using it. But if you've got predictable load and predictable workloads, then absolutely you know how big your server should be, right? But then again, you're going, if I'm going to spin up a server, now I have to go manage. What instance should I use? How big should it be? How much memory should I give it? What version of the operating system should it be? How do I patch the operating system? And all that stuff of having a server comes in. Like I love the concept of serverless. The idea that you go, I want this function to run as many times as it needs to whenever one of those things happens. Like that idea is brilliant. Like the complexity of actually getting it to work nicely and affordably,
I mean, every business that sort of scales past a certain side is not one homogenous architectural pattern most of the time. Half of the time, it's just a grab bag of every idea under the sun in different areas doing different things, because the nature of growth is if you're growing well and healthily, you just got to move fast everywhere. So you leave some of the old stuff, you build some new stuff in something new, and you go, it's always temporary. We'll get back to it. You never do. It's there forever, so horses for courses. It's hard to choose. As long as you have some architecture.
One area I've seen it work really well is databases. So we're using AWS Serverless V2 right now, and it's freaking fantastic.
Yeah.
So you've got a whole pile of extra work to do. It just scales up without any delay. They've just done such a good job with it.
Is that with Blender or Aurora?
It's Aurora.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, and it's
this episode's brought to you by AWS, by the way.
Yeah, AWS, please sponsor us. You were looking for us.
And AWS, please update your runtimes.
Oh my God. So bad they're not updating runtimes. I'm actually forced to take my own action because of
what are they doing?
They're really slow in updating runtimes, and obviously the problems they're facing of just millions of people using it and millions of services. They want to make sure they do it right, but that just ends up them not doing it.
Yeah.
What's the what sort of runtimes?
Oh, like so, if you like your Lambda can be in any language, from Ruby, .NET, JavaScript, and those sort of things. So you get like a node runtime, right? It's not up to date,
Especially in JavaScript, it moves so quickly, right? Like
It's
no
not
one uses
.NET, like the .NET ones I'm using now. They're not being updated. It's really slow.
It's with a lot of their servers too. Some get all the love, some get none. Like their Elasticsearch server, which was their fork of it to try and be mean to Elastic.co. That's just, they move so much more slowly compared to Elastic. I don't know why you would want to use the one in AWS.
I think it's just a strategic stab in the back. I think
it was a strategic thing of, they didn't want to pay money to them or money.
Although, lately they've started building on that. So they're adding all sorts of interesting machine learning stuff to that, which is interesting. So the new feature set, they're turning it into essentially an embeddings database. So you can use, AWS OpenSearch. I think it's called OpenSearch, right? To do embeddings. It's nuts. I'm going to stop talking about them because they're not sponsoring this episode.
And they won't now after we just said that.
We should keep all kinds of companies until like one of them catches us. Like,
we should try to do that. It might take 2 years. Yeah.
We will sell out for money or even AWS credits.
Yeah, that's a fall as there, and always chasing those credits.
Cool. Did anyone have any picks, or should we wrap up?
Interesting picks for the week. Interesting software or tools or anything we've seen.
I've got one for you. I've been playing with Biome.js to replace our linters and formatters because I'm on a bit of a, performance for the dev cycle kick at the moment because you guys picked on me.
Just delete the linters and formatters. Problem solved.
Yeah, well, the ones we have, I refuse to tell you how long they take on the code base and how they work. They're quite terrible. And when we mentioned we were going to look at it, one of the devs, Jude, who you guys have worked with, just almost in a fit of Tourette's yelled at Biome.js. Turns out that was like from Rome. Didn't work as a company, failed. The guy not getting paid decided, I'll just keep working on it. And it's actually really good. Like it's so fast. He's rewritten the whole, all the whole tool chains. Obviously, it's for JavaScript. It's in Rust. So it did our whole code base of reformatting, fixing, and everything, and it's sub-seconds. So you could actually do that in a pre-commit hook and actually have it not get in your way. I hate the pre-commit hooks, but when it's that
don't put anything in a pre-commit hook.
Oh, well, that's my theory, right? But on CI, it runs fast, but it's running so fast, you go, could almost do that. It can almost work if it's that invisible, because I like it to, a great feature is like ABS brakes. You don't need to know it's there, right? You don't need to know how it works or anything, but when you need it,
breaks and it won't let you commit, and you really won't need to commit because you need to do it.
Oh, there's always no verify, isn't there, on the commit?
Put it into your build pipeline, let the build do it. It's fine.
Yeah. No, got it. I love it. Check it out. It's really nice, easy to set up. Good VS Code integration. Who cares about every other editor? I don't use them. And no, it's quite nice. I like it a lot.
Love it. Vincent, what do you think? You have one?
Just asking, like that linter that you mentioned, does it like fix the star, or does it like block you when you have a wrong star?
It's actually a bit of a tool chain, right? So there's a formatter which will let you reformat, right, the file to actually fix it. There's the linter which tells you whether they've done it wrong. They're actually aiming to get rid of like jest runners and things like that as well. They want a whole complete tool chain.
It also adds a passive aggressive comment on your PR, which is
oh yeah, nothing
feels like a human,
Yeah. No, but there's a GitHub action as well, which is all there ready, and it just works straight out of the box quite nicely, and you just put it in as a step, and the world is good. It does TypeScript checking as well, which was nice for me because the TypeScript check sucks.
I don't know. The thing I'm concerned about is that if it's going to like if I have something like critical bug to fix, and then suddenly like the linter is going to stop me, it's like, no, you cannot check in this code because you have like a missing.
Vincent, just write pretty code and you'll be sorted.
Yeah. That's a separate thing, Vincent. You can use linters and formatters to help you You can use it in the editor. I use them in the editor all the time. So as I'm typing, they fix things or tell me if something's wrong.
Yeah.
But they shouldn't stop you committing. They don't have to.
Bad linters are terrible. Good linters are the greatest thing on earth.
Yeah. I've got some stories about linters going wrong, but any other picks?
I've got a pick. Zellage is a thing I've been playing with recently. It's it's almost like a replacement for Tmux. So yeah, it's really good. It's like lets you split your terminal into different windows and panes and things like that. But it also has the idea of sessions that you can connect to and disconnect to. The thing it does really nicely that Tmux doesn't do is that it's literally just got a menu bar on the bottom that says these are the key combinations you're trying to do next, right? So as you're doing things, it's like that the interface is learnable, like because all the key combinations are obvious and they're right there. You can customize it and get rid of those if you want to, and you can have different workspaces that you've got set up with different combinations of windows open and things, and even processes that are running in a watch mode that you can have running, so you can have your tests sitting in a window running constantly, and your code, if you use Vim or whatever, to edit your code, then you can have that open at the same time or whatever. It's a whole workflowy thing, but just using it as a way to split my terminals and like if you want to scroll up and down in the buffer, right? You can just type a couple of keys and it just pops the buffer open in an editor in your current, and then you can just search it, right, and stuff like that, rather than having to scroll up and down and find the bit that you were trying to find. Just there's a few simple things like that they've done really nicely, and it's got a plugin architecture as well, and the plugins are written in WASM, so you can write them in anything you like and compile them to WASM, which I thought was very cute.
In WASM.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's the future. It's the future.
Patrick loves WASM.
He's only making his own language in it. Yeah, of course he does.
Yeah, too.
I was just listening to all the features, Nigel. Of all the key combinations, learn the keys. I only use the arrows, the occasional, A to Z, and Control Z a lot. I think there's a couple of things it does well, actually, like you can go, I've split my thing into panes and I want that one to pop up full screen for a minute, so you can make it into a floaty window that pops up over the top of everything else. And things like that. It's just been designed by a developer that obviously works in it all day long, so everything's easy to do. Yeah, it's good.
Cool. Pat, any picks?
I'll choose. There's this thing I tried playing around with called Cargo Lambda. So it lets you deploy, it's sort of related to the topic, lets you write a little Rust function and deploy it to Lambda. And so it was pretty nicely made. For an AWS idiot like me, I've managed to get something deployed, and it was pretty nice. I heard a lot of good stuff about speaking of the cold start problem, of how Rust was meant to be the speediest, but I was disappointed. So I'm kind of want other people to try it and see if they can get if I'm just holding it wrong. But yeah, it was pretty nice.
Where were you deploying it to? Was it local or because sometimes you do those stats and then you realize the person who was doing the stats lives right next to the data center.
Yeah.
I deployed to US East 1, the one region to rule them all, and then I deployed to Sydney. Yep. So Sydney was better, but I still saw like a second cold start, whereas this other thing was suggesting like the cold start will be like, I don't know, 25 milliseconds, and I was like, I'm not seeing that. So yeah.
Awesome.
There was an interesting thing I saw recently that was one of the Strange Loop videos, actually. There's a project called Cursorless, and it's a plugin for VS Code, and it allows you to... The guy's history is that he had some issues with his hands at some point, and he's a programmer, so he was stuffed. Like, he couldn't type, so he couldn't program, so he basically ended up coming up with a voice-driven way to code. And so he's got this language that you can use to talk to your computer to do rapid edits to your code. Which in itself is a really interesting idea. But one of the other things I noticed in it was this concept that when it's looking at a document, there might be multiple ways you might refer to that document. So you might be saying you want to refer to something on your current line, or you might be saying I want to refer to something within the fact that I know this is a a markdown document, so it's got sections. So I might want to refer to the section. Whereas if it's a language, it might have blocks, right? And then so there's all these different contexts within which you can refer to things, and depending on the document you've got open, it depends what contexts are available to you. And I was thinking about, because I've been thinking about, I always feel that those editors that are syntactically aware, like, you know how you got refactoring tools and things, right? There's like an AST being maintained by the editor. There are some editors that go, well, all you can do is make refactorings on your AST, right? And then and I can't remember what they're called. Anyway, there's a class of editor that's like that, but you always end up going, well, actually, right now, I just want to type some text or copy and paste some text from somewhere else, and it's not syntactically correct right now. It will be once I've fiddled with it, right? Or you get some data and you want to paste it in, and then select all the commas, and then you want to do that text manipulation. And interestingly, in that cursorless, he's got a you start referring to the thing in front of you as just text, as opposed to referring to it as code, and it sort of magically switches in context. Like it's different words you're using, so it knows the different contexts. But I just love that idea of the ability to have a bunch of keyboard shortcuts, for example, of how I want to do for refactorings and whatever. In C# I use Visual Studio with ReSharper plugged in, and I got so good at all the refactorings. You could just code feels like it's Play-Doh. You can just go, pull objects out over there, put another method over there. It feels so nice to code in, and I kind of miss that in some other languages I'm playing with. Anyway,
did he have it cooked up to Copilot, like a Copilot thing? I'm guessing he didn't.
He hasn't. That's one in the pipeline, I think. It's one of the things.
But that's fascinating to me, because it's like an example of this person. They were constrained, like they just literally had no other way. So then they somehow worked out a solution to it. But like maybe all of us could be using something like that in the future. Like I think that's what some people think with this Copilot thing, where in Copilot you just write the comment and the code gets bladdered underneath. Like, oh, I'm just going to be dictating to my computer the comments, and I'll just sit back.
Yeah, that's it. And in fact, he's got full access to his hands again. Everything's working fine, but he still uses it as a daily driver. So it's like it's become this thing where you can think at a different level of abstraction when you're talking to your computer and telling it what you're trying to do next. It's interesting. It's kind of like how Vi is like commands. You're telling an editor what command you want it to do, as opposed to doing it. It's that level of abstraction away. It's really interesting.
Hang on a second. Is it Vi or VI?
VI, yeah, VI.
I was going to say, oh my God, is this one of those things where the world is split in two ways?
People say Vim.
I guarantee you that's a controversial subject.
People say Vim, not VIM, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
What I really like about this story is the idea that you can actually code something with the voice, and I do believe that there's a real future in that. Okay, it doesn't exist yet because, like right now it's very difficult to just write code with the voice. But I can imagine that at some point in the future, you can use just gestures and voice, to code. So no longer like typing stuff. And then watching somebody program will be a lot more interesting. Just imagine like somebody just talking and then moving the hands and everything. We can actually like have finally like video stream of somebody coding and then being able to watch it, and Hollywood movies are more interesting. It's not going to be like those little characters going around. It's going to be
Does that mean if I go like to give it the finger, like it adds like ESLint ignore above my line, like it tells the linter to shut up?
Yeah, I like it.
You'd have to use signals because it doesn't understand.
Oh my God, let's please wrap.
Hey, I thought that our meeting stuff can do. I think it's Zoom, right? Like I thought when we were doing this, like it was detecting that I was doing it.
That was Zoom.
That's Zoom. I was doing it. I was expecting like.
I thought it was. I thought it was on Google, mate.
I've got it. I just turned it off. Does it work?
Oh, it's a Mac
there
thing,
we go.
right?
Yeah, can you do it? Yeah, there you go.
What the hell? What is this?
It's this ridiculous Mac OS feature that I've turned off because it's just like ridiculous.
I don't have that feature.
This is so good.
You don't want that feature. People were finding it in there. There was the story that went around. Someone was in their therapy session, and then they like did like a signal, and then like fireworks went off, and it was just like totally like killed the vibe.
Okay,
Yeah.
folks. It was
All
great
right, guys.
session.
Let's wrap it up.
Let's wrap it. We'll see you all in the next episode.
Bye for now.
Bye.